Prime Minister Narendra Modi is set to unveil his ambitious Make in India campaign. With an aim to turn the country into a global manufacturing hub, the Prime Minister is making a pitch for this initiative to some of the world's top companies. This grand initiative comes just ahead of his US visit, where he will also be meeting the CEOs of several Fortune 500 companies, captains of India Inc. and international industry leaders. Government officials are also likely to attend this launch to discuss what will it take to improve India's manufacturing capabilities. I'm joined by well-known corporate leader, chairman of Biocon, Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw. Ma'am, many thanks for joining us on Bloomberg. The Prime Minister has called out to global companies to come and make in India. What to your mind is the potential in manufacturing here? Why should anyone invest?
Well, first and foremost, I think there is a huge potential in India in the manufacturing sector. If you think just about e-governance and 100 smart cities, the opportunity to invest in hardware manufacturing is mind-boggling. Because if you look at the need of software and connectivity to create these 100 smart cities and to actually, create e-governance in a most efficient and effective way, will call for huge amounts of hardware infrastructure. Now, we would have to import all of that as of now. But I think manufacturing all of that actually makes it a very, very compelling manufacturing opportunity for India. Then take the case of pharmaceuticals. I think India is already considered to be the pharmacy of the world. But I do believe that in many of the pharmaceutical segments, we need scale. We need scale in fermentation-based manufacturing. We need scale in biotech manufacturing. We need scale in a lot of the essential drug segment, where we have lost a lot of ground to China.
Right.
Today, we export, very little in the antibiotic space where we were once leaders.
Right.
And in fact, we import most of our antibiotics requirements. And I think that needs to be reversed. So I think scale is a big problem. And I think many of these sectors call for huge capital investments.
Sure.
Where I think the government needs to roll out policies which actually make investments in these large sectors much easier.
Sure.
Both in terms of low interest capital,
sure,
as well as in terms of compensating for the long gestational timelines that these projects have.
The first requirement for any manufacturing plant is land. Unless the government is going to take up the issue of land acquisition head on, how will companies get the confidence to invest?
Well, I think the government is very committed to land reforms. I think Prime Minister Modi is someone who is extremely conversant with the land issues. I think he has done a great job of solving and bringing in land reforms in Gujarat and many other parts of the country, and I'm sure he will be able to replicate this in many other parts of the country. Now, I think what we need to understand is that there are many aspects to land reforms. This is a state subject, remember. So I think it is going to be about states taking these decisions, and those who take progressive decisions and announce progressive land reforms are likely to benefit from these investments.
Sure.
And those who don't are likely to lose out. So I think this is really about the center enunciating a very strong pro-business, pro-investment, pro-reforms policy.
Sure.
And then it is for states to adopt them.
Sure.
So I think this is a very interesting time when states who want to attract these large-scale investments
sure,
will have to demonstrate alignment to these very important reforms
sure,
that the Prime Minister is keen to announce.
Sure. The second aspect, ma'am, is about labor. Why would foreign companies invest in India when labor reforms have been so slow to implement?
Well, I think again labor reforms is something that the government is very keenly addressing. And again, it is going to depend on which state is bold enough to bring about labor reforms. I think Rajasthan has already taken the first step towards this, and I think many other states will have to fall in line if they want to attract these investments, because you're right. I mean, large-scale investments are not going to come in with very lax labor laws and very archaic labor laws. So I think it's again going to depend on which state is going to be pragmatic and progressive.
So what about domestic companies? Do you think the ecosystem is changing for domestic Indian companies to go out there and invest fresh capex in manufacturing?
Well, all I can say is that the signals at the moment are very, very encouraging. I think we really need to see how they translate on the ground. But having said that, I think there is a lot more than just land and labor that we have to think about. I think there is a whole other issue of power, of the environmental laws pertaining to effluent treatment, to how we are going to compensate industry for zero discharge effluent treatment policies. How are we going to compensate industry for captive power generation, because all these make projects very, very expensive. And I think this is something, and then of course we have this whole area of special economic zones.
Right.
And as you know, only about 170 of almost 500 SEZs are operational.
Sure.
Again, there have been some anomalies in the kind of policies and tax structures that have been put into place for SEZs to thrive. And I think these are the fixes that we need to see happening very, very fast.
Sure.
We have some low-hanging fruits. For instance, we do need to scale up certain sectors where we are very strong,
right,
which need global scale.
Sure.
And then there are these SEZs which must be operationalized by looking at what is deterring investment in SEZs.
Sure. I have one final question, ma'am. You alluded to high cost of financing. Do you think the government, or is there a need for the government to incentivize investments in manufacturing?
Well, you will have to, because the cost of capital in India is very high compared to any other part of the manufacturing world. And I think this is something where the government must incentivize investment through lower cost of capital in some way. So there has to be a focus on either tax holidays, of course, which are also very important, because many of the manufacturing hubs in the world are very attractive because of tax holidays, tax concessions, low interest capital, and so on and so forth. So I think financing is definitely going to be a very important part of manufacturing, and I hope the government is going to really give us some respite in that area, because I know as an organization we have manufacturing facilities both in India as well as in Malaysia, and I know that the terms of investment in Malaysia at this point in time are far more attractive than what India has to offer.
Sure.
So we do need to benchmark a number of our manufacturing policies
sure,
with some of the successful manufacturing hubs. Having said that, I think India has a lot going for it in manufacturing.
Sure.
We can produce the highest quality at the lowest cost.
Sure.
And that is a very compelling reason for investing in manufacturing in India.
I'm running out of time, ma'am. Many thanks indeed for joining us with your perspective. Kiran Mazumdar-Shaw of Biocon on the Make in India campaign that the Prime Minister has said today. But coming up next, Reliance Power and JP